From San Antonio, Texas, home of the Alamo, the Riverwalk, and the World Heritage San Antonio Missions, this is the Exit Planning Coach podcast with John F. Dini. Designed to help advisors who work with business owners, John talks with top professionals in the exit planning field about best practices, marketing tips, and how to be more effective when working with owners. Now, here's John F. Dini.
Welcome to the Exit Planning Coach podcast. And today I'm meeting with Paul Visokey of Stony Hill Advisors. Paul is a business broker and represents Main Street to lower middle market businesses. And he has, while not a unique approach, the kind of approach we really like. There are basically two philosophies in business brokerage, period. And if you go to IBBA or M&A Source, you'll see them. One is throw everything against the wall. Some of it is bound to stick. And the other one is, I don't want to waste my time with poor listings. I want my clients to be ready to sell and appealing to a buyer. And Paul, you're obviously part of that second group.
Certainly am. In fact, anytime I meet a new potential client, I use that explanation immediately. We're not business brokers, first of all. I call ourselves mergers and acquisitions advisors.
Mm-hmm.
I say our primary way of helping a business owner is we find another company to buy, and it is classically a merger between your company and that acquiring company. So that's different than business brokers who put things online, and a buyer comes in with SBA money in his back pocket, and he's going to now run the company. That's a different process. So we focus on finding a merger candidate.
Good. I like the way you put that. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to insult. I used to be a business broker, so I didn't mean to insult you by saying business broker. Tell me, we've talked a little bit about this offline, but you're one of the few folks that really made a strategic decision that involved the demographics of the business ownership world. Why don't you tell us for a little bit about how you got started in 2010?
Okay, and it was strategic because my prior company closed. I was a senior executive in a commercial mortgage firm, and the mortgage industry was on the rocks. So I decided, instead of going back and finding another corporate job, I would start my own. And after doing an analysis and prior to reading your book, John, I realized, mostly from the Commerce Department data, that the huge number of baby boomer generation business owners that needed to sell at some point in the near future. And your book tells the story so well that there was a market that needed to be served. It wasn't a market that the buyers, the sellers would not have to do this, but they could take as much time as they wanted, which has been the issue that we've had along the way, that the sellers are not anxious to move on. They wait till the last second. So investing in that process, we learned that the one way we can help ourselves and help our client is to help them prepare their business for exit. And that preparation process takes time. We recommend 3 to 5 years on average. So no, we don't walk away from transactions that someone comes to us and says, I just had a heart attack, I need to sell. We'll help them find a buyer for their company and so on. But as much as possible, we encourage them to get ahead of the game and start a process. In fact, I use the term, selling your business is a process, it's not an event. You don't just do it, you have to work at it over time. And that process takes a lot of investment of your own time, and it takes the owner has to be willing to work at it, because they're doing day to day. You always talk about a business owner, typically a small business owner, they work in the business 7 days a week. They don't work on their business very often.
Sure.
We work on trying to get them to work on their business.
It's a tough sell, though. I mean, when I was a broker, and you know it too. How many times have you gone and had somebody call up and say, "I think I'm ready to sell my business. Can you have a buyer in 30 days?" I'm ready to go now, right? In brokerage at IBBA, we always used to say, if somebody tells you he's burned out, take a look at his financials. He burned out 3 years ago. But it's a tough sale. You're walking into somebody that has presumably called you because he's on the slippery slope. He's made the mental decision that he wants to be out of his business. And you want to walk in and tell him that he should back up a bit and take a couple of years to get ready. How do you do that? I mean, how do you turn them around when you're meeting with them?
Well, that's a very interesting way of posing the question. We try not to do that exactly. Our marketing is to get them to do it before they reach that burnout stage.
Okay.
So we're constantly drip marketing information around why you should be planning to exit. What do you need to do to get ready, including making yourself ready? Because when you leave your company that you've built for 30 years, you need some other life. You need to, not everybody can play golf every day of the week. So the idea is you have to prepare yourself, prepare your family, prepare your business. And we try to get them to wake up to, oh, if I'm going to do that, I can't do that in 2 days. I have to work on it. So we try to get ahead like that. To your point, though, people do call us and they say, well, I'm ready to sell. We try to use, it takes on average as much as a year to sell a business. So we use some of that time to get the business ready, at least fix the obvious things that need to be fixed, primarily in the financial category of getting the books in better shape. Sure. But you have to. It's a hard line between helping a business owner who's ready to sell versus helping them get ready to sell before they're ready to sell.
Yeah, no, it's hard, but as you said too, and it's so important to us, and I talk about it in my book, but we're going to advertise the book just in a couple of minutes, so I don't have to go on and on about the book. But we say 3 things that they have to have if they're going to exit successfully. They have to have activity for after they're gone. They have to have a purpose after they're gone, and they need an identity after they're gone, because they're not Joe, the owner of Joe's whatever anymore. Yeah. You mentioned drip before. How did you put your drip campaign together? We do the National Exit Planner Survey, and I'm astonished. Every year we have something like 18 or 20% of practitioners say, well, I don't have a CRM. I don't keep a database. It's like, excuse me.
Well, I couldn't imagine running a business without it.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to plug them, but we use a platform called HubSpot.
Sure. Good one.
And their CRM allows us to outbound email marketing using a workflow that they set up, so it almost runs by itself. We write and they're all short emails. We don't want to make them long stories. Nobody reads past the second paragraph. So we have short emails that go out, and we have a series. We run every week a different story that we're telling them about getting the business ready for exit. And we have various things they can click on to alert us to, they must be serious. They're actually digging in a little bit. They're looking past the email into one of the things we obviously do is include the exit map assessment. Mm-hmm. Most of our emails have a link to do an exit map assessment, and that tells us, well, they're interested. And then we have also some tools on doing some financial analysis to build a value for them, and so on. So there's ways to get them to. And I have a document I call a white paper I call the age wave. You know where I got that? Mm-hmm. So
Ken Dykewald.
Yes.
Yes.
So the idea is to drip on them on a regular basis, that we can build our brand and they know of us, because we never know when they're ready to either begin the process of preparing for exit, or in fact to put the business on the market. So we want to be constantly in touch with them. And by the way, we have 130,000 business owners in our database, so it's not a small number.
Wow. Is it geographically situated, or are you marking all over the country?
Mark, I have people in the eastern half of the U.S. as far west as Ohio and Tennessee and Long Island, and I'm in Connecticut, and we have Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and so on.
Sure.
And I have 8 people on my team. And so that universe of business owners is primarily in that territory. As we're looking to keep adding to the team too, by the way. So as we go south and we go west, we'll be expanding our database.
Describe your ideal client.
Well, that's a very good question, because the ideal client is someone who's willing to listen. I've had many occasions where I have a business owner tell me how to do my job.
Yeah.
Usually we don't agree to ever represent them, because they know how to run their business. I know how to run my business. So I don't need someone telling me. So the ideal client is someone who's willing and has an open mind. Ideally, as I said earlier, they have time. They're not in a frantic scenario of having to get out right away. And they understand the process that I explained they'll have to go through, and they're willing to invest in. That's another key component. I've had many occasions where I get all the head going up and down. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, well, we're going to need to add on someone who's going to replace you, a second in command. Well, I do all that work. If I hire someone to do what I'm doing, then that comes out of my pocket. Why would I do that?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, it's because it's going to make your business more valuable. Does it? And then you go down the line. You need to upgrade that machine or that truck, because it's on its last legs, and the buyer's going to take it off the price whether you like it or not. So why don't you use it? Put a new one in over the next couple of years. We're working together, and then you have the access to it, and the buyer will appreciate that you have a new machine, and So, and then another one, by the way, I do recommend, because we sell business to business. We represent a business owner. Sure. and a merger. We oftentimes try to understand their business well enough to recommend they buy a company. If they have 3 to 5 years runway, they should be buying a company that then their business is bigger. And when they go to sell it, they're selling for more, because it's a bigger operation.
Sure, the arbitrage of it. Yeah.
And the other interesting thing is about it, and when you put the numbers together, if they buy a successful business, someone who's looking to get out because they're going to retire, that business has cash flow to pay the loan. So you're getting the business for free to some degree.
Right.
I mean, they're not 100%, but it's paying for itself. So your business is going to get more valuable. You have to go through an integration, but you're going to now be running a bigger operation, which is somewhat an ego trip, and it's going to be almost paid for. So why not do it?
Great. Acquisition is a great strategy. Hold on a second. We're going to have to pay for the podcast. I'm going to take a quick break.
Okay.
And then we'll come back and talk more to Paul Visokey about particularly third-party sale exits.
Hello, John F. Dini here, and I'm very excited to announce the publication of the Exit Planning Coach Handbook. Inspiration for the handbook comes from my 25 years of working as a coach to business owners, with 12 of those years dedicated to helping them plan their business transitions. It is a guide for advisors that explains why working with business owners is so dramatically different from working with other executives. It provides insights on how to approach planning conversations with owners more effectively. Plus, it takes you through the steps that will help you develop your relationship as their most trusted advisor. I wrote this book for advisors who want their clients to move on to a second act that's even more rewarding than their first. If you read any of my previous books, you know I don't lecture. It's a conversation between two professionals. If you work with business owners, I strongly encourage you to read the Exit Planning Coach Handbook. I think it will quickly become a go-to in your reference library. It is currently available on Amazon and the Kindle store in paperback and as an audiobook.
Welcome back to the Exit Planning Coach podcast. Today I'm meeting with Paul Visokey of Stony Hill Advisors, and Paul has been describing to us his practice of helping business owners understand, ideally 3 to 5 years ahead of time, what they need to do with their companies in order to have the most successful possible exit. Paul, by the way, I didn't get to mention, is a certified M&A advisor, a certified business intermediary, and a certified value builder. He also attended the University of Pennsylvania, so he's an Ivy League guy. Rutgers University, which everybody thinks is an Ivy League guy, but as an alumnus myself, I know it's not. It is a colonial. It is one of the 13 universities founded before the United States was, and Pace University, of which my dad is an alma mater. So Paul and I have a lot of connections going all around the East Coast. So Paul, we were talking about helping people get ready, and you were talking about I make all the decisions. One of the things, and we do the assessment. The assessment, by the way, at least the way we use it, is
Yes.
very much a qualification to see if they want to play.
Yeah,
We send somebody the assessment. Sometimes they call up and say, well, I need to talk to you. And I say, okay, I'll give you a second shot at taking the assessment. And they say, well, I don't want to take the assessment. I say, well, then I don't want to work with you. Sorry. They need to at least be able to do that. Otherwise, we're not going to go very far, as you said. But I love it when I'm debriefing an assessment. And, the first thing I look at is the two answers: who makes the decisions and how long do you work? And as well as I do, a lot of times we see I've got managers that make all the decisions and I work 60 hours a week. And I point out that one of those things is not
right.
true. And if it is, I don't know what's wrong with your company. But you were talking about that, the not wanting to invest, talk about owner centricity for a second. It kills value. We know that. How do you talk them out of it? Because getting a second in command is not easy.
It is not easy. I'll tell you a quick story of one person I've been coaching for a couple of years now. Small business doing about $5 million in revenue, and he runs everything and he's very qualified, built it from scratch. And I was coaching him, trying to get him to bring on. I helped him find an engineer. I helped him find a financial advisor. But it came to finding his replacement. He was resistant. He'd like to have control. Well, lo and behold, he had a heart attack. No, he had bypass surgery, not a heart attack, but he had bypass surgery, and he was advised to take it easier. So now he has second command, and he's thankful. But the other side of that coin was his wife didn't want him to bring on another person, take money out of the family to pay somebody to do what he's already doing. He had to convince her that it's for his well-being and for the well-being of the company that they have this other person that he works with as basically a COO, second in command. So it took a while to do that. It took a couple of years to coach him into doing that. So it is always the owners have an idea that businesses they created and they own it, and they treat the cash flow as theirs. In fact, one of the negatives we find too is they spend their personal lives in their business, their car, their vacations, and that's not a good thing to do when you're nearing an exit anyway. We try to talk them out of that by padding that stuff in, even if I can identify it and add it back, as they say. It's not helpful that if there's a lot of that in the business, the buyers get curious. Why is that? Why can't the business run without that? So those are all things we try to get them to recognize, and that's a little bit of fatherly coaching. That's why I have gray hair. Some of these people also have gray hair, but I try to give them a little bit of advice around. I've been around doing this for 12 years, almost 13. I've seen it. I know. I'm telling you what you need to do. If you listen to me, we can make your business better, and you'll exit at a higher value than it is right now. And we do valuations too for them to give them a measure where they are today, and we can do it again at a later date.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a story I tell in my very first book, 11 Things About Selling Your Business, about a client I had that spent $10,000 a year on his work shoes. Now, this is Texas, and they were all made out of ostrich or boa constrictor or crocodile or something neat like that. But even so, it was
work shoes.
Yeah, the ad back was a little tough when we got to the banker. Okay, so you've got a drip campaign and you're out there telling people what they need to do. Most of us also get a lot of work by referral. You get work by referral? Who refers to you?
We do. In fact, I estimate at least 50% of our clients come from referral. It's the trusted advisor community, and that varies. Most of the time it's an attorney or an accountant, but it also includes financial advisors, other consultants doing work with them. Like there's people who do work around cost reduction. Well, they're in saving money out of the business. Well, they can't do what I'm doing. So if the business owner is reaching that stage that they're looking to exit, they'll refer to me. We do a lot of networking in general terms with other service providers to business owners. So it's just getting the word out and getting it, and it takes time to build it up, because you don't expect immediate results, or you don't expect any one of those people to give you many referrals. So you need a lot of them, and that's it's very important. It's just, that's like the people who have worked for me. That's one of the things I coach them, because most of them come into doing this work from another profession, and they don't have that referral community build up. So it's one of the first things they have to start doing is getting out, networking, and getting known in these same communities.
You say people coming into the profession. I mean, we're looking at in the various certifications, we'll probably see another 1,500 to 2,000 advisors going out and getting some sort of exit planning training this year. When somebody's first coming into this business, what would be your recommendation to them in starting a practice?
Well, because the primary focus of Stony Hill Advisors is the transaction. So we recommend they either get a CMNAA or a CMAP, which is the M&A source provided. Those are quick programs, like 6 weeks of training on a part-time basis. And they learn all the basics. That gives them the foundation. And then, then I coach them on what we do specifically, and our tools and our approaches, and that gets them up to speed. It's worth noting, what I've done strategically is I typically look for advisors who are senior, like myself, and have been successful in their own career. I have 2 people who sold their companies and didn't want to quit altogether, but they're working as an advisor to help other business owners. Another person who was a senior executive in a big company, a multi-billion-dollar company, and he retired. Another person, 2 other people who are doing exit planning as a profession, and I convinced them to do some transaction work with me. So they're still doing their exit planning, and they've added on the transaction side of the business.
We talked about the business, and we haven't mentioned, if people want to get a hold of you, we're a team sport. We all work back and forth with other advisors. Why don't you, it'll be on the podcast when we post it, but why don't you give it to us right now too?
My email address is paul@stonyhilladvisors.com. Stony is Stony. I have to alert people, because I never got your email. Well, did you put an E in Stony? Yeah. Well, that's why I didn't get your email. And my phone number is 267-535-2551.
This is an introductory meeting. We're going to be putting some other things together. Actually, one of the things I'm working on is I'd like to have a panel discussion of different practitioners in different fields, talking about some of the stuff that we do together. But I appreciate you coming on. One last question. What is the biggest challenge in your planning side?
You talk to a business owner, I've hardly ever had someone say, "Oh, I don't want to plan for my exit." But when you ask them to begin the plan for their exit and to put some money, because we charge for our coaching, they also, I'll do it later. So getting them to recognize the need and getting them to be willing to invest in that exit that's down the road 3 to 5 years, that's the biggest hurdle we have. They want to do it. They just don't want to stop what they're doing and begin that process.
Yeah, just not today. I can do it tomorrow. Yeah. Hear that all the time.
I sometimes call him wimpy.
Yeah.
Get a hamburger tomorrow.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm fond of telling people that I know people that have sold their companies quickly, and some that took a long time. And I know people that have sold their companies for hundreds of millions of dollars, and some that just sold it for enough to get out or handed it over to the employees. But I've never, ever heard one say, I spent too much time planning. Well, Paul, I appreciate you coming on with us. It's been a pleasure to get to talk to you a bit. And like I said, we'd like to have you back if you're willing.
Sure.
And we'll do this again. I'm having a blast. I'm having a really good time doing it. So I hope you enjoyed your time.
Oh, I enjoyed the conversation very much. It's one of the things I like about what I do. I said at the beginning, it's a mission to help business owners access the wealth they've created. It's locked up. It's illiquid wealth in those companies. Right. And my goal is to help them get at it. and it gives me pleasure. So I like talking about it. It helps me, gives me energy.
Good, good. Well, I think it sounds like you have a lot of energy, and it's been great talking to you. So thank you very much. We'll talk
Thank you,
to you
John.
again soon.